Pleasant good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. I see the good morning in the box already. Thank you so much. The name is Andrew B. Campbell, aka DR.ABC, and I am absolutely honored to be here to host another community class, something very near and dear to my pedagogy, my practice, my promise to self and to community. And this community class is being hosted by CTL 7009, which is the course for our first year students in anti-discriminatory education. And so you're being joined by over 40, 39, 40 to be exact, of our BFEP students who this is their class. And I also see second year, which I just absolutely love some of the second year in the space as well. Um, I also see community. I see community. I see principals. I've identified about three principals in the audience. I've seen directors. I've seen superintendents. And I've seen community leaders. And so I want even my students, first of all, my students to be very much aware who is in the house, who is in the room with you. You are in the room with educational leaders, board representatives, community organizations. As a matter of fact, I've seen ATs in the room as well. I've seen principals who host BFEP students in the room as well. And that is the power of why we are here and why we're doing this and how beautiful this is. I've seen people saying good morning in the chat already. Please know the chat is open. It is for you to engage in, comment on things I'm saying, add information, something I said that really resonate. You want to make a comment on it? Absolutely. This is a space for all of us. As a matter of fact, I hope people know that the reason I started community class was for one reason, access and opportunity. I do a lot of keynote, I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I know for a fact that many people will not have the opportunity to be in one of those keynotes, be in one of those spaces. How do I share all this with community? And watch me carefully. And how do I learn from community? I have to share something very personal. I had to reach out to someone the other day just to speak to me for, just to get some time to speak to that particular person who is an amazing black therapist, just to get some grounding for myself, which is important. And I smile because this person I met through community class. First time I met this person was right here, I think it's 3 years ago in a community class, or maybe 4 years ago in my community class. And so this is the power of this space, and this is the power that we're here for. Now, if you notice, the 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 recording is already on, so the lecture is being recorded. Let me make it very clear. Whenever we go into breakout rooms to have discussions on the case studies I'm going to be sharing, there will be no recording. Okay? The recording will be paused. And when we are doing question and answer at the end, there'll be no recording as well. So don't feel intimidated to come on camera when it's time for the Q&A, or don't feel intimidated to share, because there'll be no official recording. And I'm going to ask that nobody else record during question and answer or during the breakout rooms as well. Can you everybody just jump in the chat box quickly? I know you said good morning, but I've seen some of you like Archie Beals already saying where you from, right there in Nova Scotia. Good to see you, Archie. Can everybody just drop quickly in the box where you are at, school board, where you're coming from, whether it's a school board, an organization. Also, our students, if you are a BFEP student, I would love for you to also drop that in the box as well to share where you're from. This lecture is also very much tied to my BFEP students' assignment. So I see you, Erica Smith from Niagara School Board. I see you. I see you at the wonderful opportunity of working with you. I see you, Shelley and Skinner from Uplift Black, a powerful grassroots organization. And I must say, I'm so excited to have someone like Shelley and Skinner who is going to be presenting on one of our panel at the University of Toronto, OISE, Center for Black Studies in Education event on January the 27th at our symposium. So that's what this powerful is about. Those of us inside the institutions learning with and from those outside. Notice I said learning with and from. We don't want to ever walk away with the idea that those of us inside the institution, we are the holder, the keepers, or something special of knowledge. Like I said to you, I have had my cup full often in community spaces. So we're going to get right into this conversation this morning. And I'm glad to see everyone and just be able to participate, share, open up, and we're going to have an amazing time together. So I'm going to share my screen and get right into it. And so this morning we're going to have this conversation about disrupting anti-Black racism from within. This is a powerful conversation. This is a very intentional conversation. And I can share with you, Colette, why this conversation became so important years ago. In way before a pandemic, we were having a lot of conversation about racism. We were having a lot of conversation about anti-Black racism. But what happened was the number of conversation that I had in community talking to people about racism and anti-Black racism, and I noticed something kept occurring, was that the questions were very, very deliberate about what happens, Dr. Campbell, what happens, DR.ABC, when it's closer home than just the webinars we've been attending. What happened when it's a coworker that I sit beside? What happened when I find out it's in my extended family, in my immediate family? What happens when I am struggling with that internalized racism? I'm already there. Thank you, ancestors. I felt that. What happens when I am in a space where shadism and colorism and brown complicity comes up? What happens when I am struggling with my own identity? What happens? And so I created this presentation specifically for that reason. So this is not your typical disrupting racism, disrupting whatever. This is about the within. The within that is close. This is about the proximity. This is about the one that you can't just fan off and walk away from because it's so close to you. It's your boss. It's the two co-workers that sit next door to you. It's the community, it's a committee that you are on that you can't get off because that's a part of your job. I could tell you stories that you would be surprised. And I'm going to begin with a story that I didn't plan to share. Back in 2022, I was doing a lot of conversation about anti-Black racism. Sorry, in 2020, lots. And I got so many invites like I have, constantly, which I'm blessed, and I receive that with all the blessing that comes with that. But what I noticed was sometimes the way people were sent, Black folks were sent to negotiate with me. And I remember one particular incident I'm going to share with you from two particular incidents I want to share. The first one comes to you from in 2020 from an organization. This was George Floyd era conversation. And I remember there were 4 persons on the conversation to talk with me about being hired to do a conversation. 3 Black women and a Black man. And it's a big organization, and they were negotiating with me, the cost, that kind of stuff, that went easily, but the nature of the presentation. And I remember the 3 ladies being very clear about the messaging. And when the meeting was over, the Black gentleman who was in charge of the team, he asked to stay back with me for a minute, and I did. And he said to me, Dr. Campbell, you are loved, respected, appreciated, and I know your voice is clear and deliberate. And he said to me, I just got a promotion. And if you speak this strong, I know I will not be a part of the boys group. Michelle George Patrick, I see you. Black strong woman, leader. It hit me. It hit me hard. Because I know he was being vulnerable, authentic. I had not created this presentation at that time. I think this created late 2020. But I understood exactly what he was saying. He said, I need this message. I need to share this. But I know so many people in the space is not ready for it. And this may disrupt. Anybody see the word I'm using? This may disrupt. And I will never forget, I left there so heavy, but I knew that the ancestor would help me to weave it in the right way, which I did. Another incident happened in 2021. I want to share with you what I mean from within. I was invited again to speak at a very big organization, but this time it was going to be the board. And it's in Black History Month. This is February 2021. I like to begin with personal stories for you to gain context of who I am, why I speak like this, and what I know for sure. And again, it was two racialized persons that came online to negotiate with me. And this specific talk is for the board. The board happens to be, I think it was 11 white men. This was 2021. This was the board. Nothing new in 2025, 2026. We still have some of those boards, right? And just so you know, if you have friends online trying to get into the chat and they are texting you or anything, ask them to change their name to the chat to their full name. I am not letting anyone with aliases, all kind of stuff. You don't name Morning Glory, I'm not letting you in Morning Glory. You don't name Carrot, I'm not letting Carrot in. Put your full name in. Tell your friends who are trying to come in that Dr. Campbell is not letting anybody with no funny name. I'm not doing Morning Glory, I'm not doing Carrot, I'm not doing Cheese Crunches. I'm doing your name. Wonderful. That's for the recording. Some of you have to be, you have to stop. It's too much. So let's get it back into the story. And when they finished negotiating when they were negotiating with me, they paused. They paused me. And they said, hey, Dr. Campbell, I just want you to know, this is a board of, of amazing men who have done, so much for us and whatever. You could sense the energy in the room. And they said to me, can you shift the conversation or you're going to have it? And I want you to take some time to really tell them thanks for what they have done for us. I want you to listen to me. This is Black History Month. The organization sent two racialized people, one black, one person of color, to negotiate a keynote with me to speak to a board of 11 white men to tell them thanks for how they have treated black people. I'm sure some of you could figure out how that story ended. I didn't say anything. I said, I kind of, have a conversation with them. And then we said, we'll talk. And I came off the phone, came off the Zoom. And about a couple of hours after, the email I was expecting came. Dear DR.ABC, thank you so much. You're supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. The sun is shining, it's snowing, it's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And just want you to inform me that we have decided to go in another direction. I'm going to tell you this very strong and very honest. That was maybe the first time that I felt in my body the pride of the ancestors. I felt in my body the pride of the ancestors. That I didn't sell out my blackness. Of course, I missed the money because I like my money and I like to travel and I like to do the most. And I've worked hard. But at that particular time, I go, this is what's going to happen to you quite a bit. People are looking for you to discount blackness so they can be comfortable. I have tried my best, and I hope I have made the ancestors proud that I have not tried once to sell out, water down, discount, 2 for 1, mark down blackness. So we're going to have that conversation this morning. I'm going to get back into my presentation, and we're going to talk about the disruption from within in your body as well. So as we have this conversation, I want to start with this. And this comes to us from one of our professors here at OISE, Professor Caroline in the MT program. The first time she shared that, I fell in love with it, and I've used it. She knows I've used it a million times, and I give her credit all the time because this was something she shared. And this is to ask you, where are you right now in your body? When you think about what's to do outside, you see what's going on around us. You see the attack on DEI. You see the job loss. You see black women, especially in the US, have lost their jobs. You see certain things. I could tell you, I have had some emails against me right here at OISE. I say this for the record. So when you see me smiling and living my best life, you have to understand I am grounded and rooted in self-care and self-love. I hope somebody's writing that on their notepad, I hope Colette, you're writing that down on your notepad, because you have to know, to do this work, you have to be grounded and solid and self-care, because if not, it's not going to happen. I have had students at OISE complain about the strength in my voice. You'd be surprised. I've had people online complain. You can actually turn down your volume. But no, you write a letter to complain how strong Dr. Campbell was shouting. Oh, yes. You see, I'm being very personal today for this recording, for you to understand what anti-blackness looks like when it shows up in your spaces. You could actually use your volume and turn me down. As a matter of fact, you could mute me if you want. So self-care and self-love, Nicole Baxter Lane, is absolutely necessary. And I'm going to make sure I undergird that as we go along this conversation. So how are you feeling? I don't want any one of you to feel like you must feel like a peacock. You must be that bouncing dog. You must be like the eagle. You must be that person all in the mic to do this work. No, you don't have to. Let it be told to you this morning. You don't need to always feel like that. If you're timid, if you're uncertain, if you're unsure, that is a right feeling. Because this work takes energy and effort. And that is why I want to use that to make sure you understand. Do not walk away from this community talk feeling like I have to be the big bad wolf. I have to be always spreading my wings like a peacock to get this work done. I have had days, Henrietta, when I am like the cat in the bag. I am thinking, should I step out today? I have times when I'm getting myself together and I'm like that fish literally going through thinking, can you just put me into an aquarium and let me live my best life? Because I can't take this deep water. Can you just put me like a goldfish in your special goldfish bowl so I just live my best life? Because this navigating is taking a toll on me. Hashtag self-care. Hashtag self-love. Hashtag affirmation. Hashtag grounding. And so what do I do with that, students? Students, pull up close to the laptop. You take a picture of any one of my slides. You have my permission to do that. You have my permission to share that. That's you. Everybody in this room have my permission to take a picture of any of my slides. I want you to realize that it's a growth process. Don't get up out of your bed and just think, I am a superstar. I can do all of this with my eyes closed, with my hand tied behind me, whatever. I have gone into rooms I have been on panel and I could feel the heaviness. I want you to realize that the fear zone is not going to work for you, but the learning zone is exactly where you need to be. I don't need none of you to walk out of here that you are certified anti-black racist. None of us are. No, no, no. And that's why, if you, I don't know if you ever noticed me. I have never, you can look on flyers, and I have tons of flyers. I've never used the word expert. And I've actually asked people to remove the word expert beside my name when I've been invited. You know, they would say, Dr. Campbell is an expert in anti-black racism, an expert in LGBTQ. And I would actually ask people to remove my name, remove the word expert, because I'm in constant growth mode. When I tell you I sat down in my body over the Christmas preparing a keynote speech for Black History Month, and I could tell you I felt when the ancestors pulled me to teach me about resilience in a way I have never thought of before. That's going to be coming in February. A couple organizations will be getting that. So I want you to sit in that learning zone when you think about this. I have had the pleasure of seeing many of my students blossom over the time. I have seen students come in and they are coming from very white spaces. Many of our black students, all they know is in white spaces. Some of them in 2025, 2026, I am still their first black professor. Imagine that. In 2025, I am still their first black educator. What do you think that do to people about their own identity? So many of you are struggling with your own identity because you have had the narrative that black is never good enough and black is at the back and whiteness is at the center and at the front. You have not gone outside to hear people talk about blackness in a way that makes you feel supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That is why I want you to get this. I am so intentional about the black spaces I occupy, invite myself in, invited to. I want you to understand where I'm going with this. I need to be strengthened. I need to be affirmed. I need to be cared for. Oh, I need to feel softness. I need to feel love. I need to feel care. And I have to understand when I go into spaces that are full of blackness, I feel watered. That is heavy for some of you who don't know some of those spaces, because we have to admit, a lot of us don't know those spaces. A lot of you don't know those spaces. And I've seen people write reflections, and I'm so appreciative of my students and the vulnerability. I read my year 2 students' reflections the other day. Many of those reflections, it filled me up. The vulnerability, the honesty that they trusted me to share. It's a journey. It is a journey. And so I want you to realize that the journey from racism to anti-racism has to happen on all levels. It's the institutional level. Like today, we're having a class. It's an official class. This is an official course from the University of Toronto in the Master of Teaching program. This is us teaching so we can grow. And we can grow. And we can glow. Write that down. We can grow. We can glow. And we can go. You'd be surprised. I taught that, Jennifer. I taught that. I see you, Jennifer, from the Catholic Principals Council. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your collegiality. And I don't know if you realize, Jennifer, but we have been in the same space, learning together a number of years. And that's why I appreciate you so much. Enough love and blessings. I want you to realize that same phrase I just used, grow, glow, and go. I taught that years ago, 20, maybe 25 years ago, in grade 2. Foods. The topic was foods that let us grow, glow, and go. You see what you see how you can take. I hope the young teachers in the room and the teachers to be are getting it. That those three words I taught in Jamaica in science, health science in grade 2. Foods that let us grow, glow, and go. AKA the vitamin C that lets you glow. The carbohydrates that lets you go. And now, almost 25, 30 years, it's dropping to my energy. Are you in spaces, Monique? I see you, Monique. Are you in spaces? My students, Erica, I see you outside. Pratima from Niagara, I see you. Thank you for your love. Are you in spaces, Michaela, that ensure that you're going to grow, glow, and go? That's what the learning is about today. And so I want you to realize, I love this. What this is really saying is that, when we're doing this work and to become anti-race and love ourselves and know who we are, we have to have a deep examination of the assumption, the perception, the policies, the disparities, everything. That's why when you go into school boards, young, students, when you go into the school boards, many of you, your eyes are like, what? Oh, 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 because there's so many things going on. It's a policy. It's a school culture. Let me tell you a beautiful story. I said the word beautiful, but it's a sad story, but it has a beautiful ending. So I'm going to share with you. I was somewhere the other day and I met two principals in a social space, and we were talking, black principals in a board. And they were telling me, we're talking, and they were saying to me, I was telling them about Black History Month. I'm excited. I'm ready to do the most. I just want to do the most. And they laugh. And one of them said to me, years ago when she went to a particular school, they had an issue with Black History Month. She said they never had Black History Month. She brought it in and it was shut down. I hope my students are listening, because sometimes when I hear our conversation, I realize some of us have not yet understand the reality of some of the spaces you are going to be employed in. That's why I need you to be self-care and the self-love. I see you, Principal Blake. Self-care and the self-love, so you can do it and do it well. She said it came at her very hard. She said she got letters left, right, and center. Can we have this day, that day, that day? She said it was literally an attack. And so, Black History Month at that school, I'm not talking about 100 years ago, I'm talking about 4 years ago, was canceled. No, it was 2018, 7 years ago, was canceled. And then she said to me, but you know what I did? Understanding my journey, understanding perception, understanding live experience, understanding the tools I have acquired. She said, I reach out to community, Black community, to say, can you hold events and spaces where I will direct our school to attend? Because she could have fight that battle and win at that time. Let me say this to our young teachers in the room, because I hear you and I see you. You're not going to win all of it. Oh, I felt that, ancestors. That's the world we live in. And that is why you're going to hear me like a broken record today, Aaron and Erica, saying self-care and self-love. I have come to spaces in my journey, in TDSB, in other places, at Oisy, when I realize, Andrew, pack up your bags. Take the subway or the train or drop it in your car. Go home. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Go make yourself some good food. Go get yourself some oxtail or some cow foot. Go make yourself a pot of pea soup with some pigtail in it. Go watch a movie and sit in your body. There I go shouting. They complain about shouting. It's not going to stop. Sit in your body and take care of yourself, because this one is heavy. I hope I'm speaking to somebody. I hope I'm speaking to you. I hope you're understanding where my heart is going this morning. I hope you understand what I carry. I feel my energy. I feel my emotions. I know what I carry. I know what I carry. So I don't walk into every building every day feeling like I am the superstar and I'm going to win every battle. I have come on YouTube one day and there was a horrible video about me, the pedagogy of rage. And I smiled. Oh, I didn't cry, I smiled. I said, yes, I am good enough for you to make an entire video about the pedagogy of rage. And for those who don't understand, you need to Google pedagogy of rage and understand, as black folks, many of us have absolute 100% reason to be in rage. I could give you about 5 personal stories. I could tell you how I was treated at RBC in North York when I went for my mortgage in 2019. How I was spoken to by a bunch of bank staff. And when I demanded respect, 7 people came out to say, when I asked for the manager, 7 people at RBC North York, Bathurst and what that intersection is, not Shepherd, the one up more, say to me, we are all the managers. So when you understand, when they say 7 and 8 and 9 police circle one black man to handcuff him, sitting on his neck, sitting on his head, sitting on his back, kneeling on his thing, I'm telling you, this is not new. We have seen this. I wasn't going to beg money. As a matter of fact, the bank book was cute. But that was how I was received and spoken down to. I could tell you tons of stories. How I moved into my new home. And I had one of my very good friends who is white come to my house to do some work for me as a gift. Amazing friend. And when we were leaving, this is the second day I went to this new house. I haven't even moved in as yet properly. And when I was going inside my car, the neighbor at the time, who's no longer living here, walked around the car to the white guy and said to him, welcome to the neighborhood. I was closest to him. And then my white friend said to me, it's his house. And he stood right beside the white guy and said, and waved to me. I don't speak from the storybook of Humpty Dumpty. I don't speak from Cinderella. I don't speak from Jack and the Beanstalk. I speak from my lived experience, and that's what makes you will never break me as you think, because I speak from showing up in my fullness. So I know it is to be picked last or never been picked. And by default, something happened and I get to be the one on the stage with the mic. A lot of you see me doing this work. I tell you my journey, you would be surprised. You may think that, oh, I have a PhD, so that's why Dr. Campbell does all of these things. No, I have an experience. My PhD supports my experience. So all of you black women in this space, understand who you are as a black woman. All of you 2S LGBTQIA plus black queer people, understand who you are. All of us who are male presenting and male defined, understand who you are, because you also walk in certain privilege. How do you navigate that? And so this is not new. Anti-blackness is not new. The Stephen Lewis report, I want all of my students, it's in your reading, for you to take a quick read at that one of these times to understand. And Canada have its history. I literally heard somebody said, they didn't know. They said, oh, well, I don't know if slavery was in Canada. I said, oh, yes, it was. We had slavery and segregation in Canada. Ask Viola Desmond about her experience in the movie theater. We like to talk about her because she's on the money, but nobody wants to tell her story. And that's why sometimes I am very strong with my younger people, for you to understand the freedom you are enjoying today. Some people have paid very, very, very dear for it. And so I want you to understand, what is anti-black racism? The racial prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination which is directed towards people of African descent and which is rooted in their unique history of enslavement. There's no shocker. I'm not going to get into our neighbors next door, but there's no shocker of all the African countries on the list. if you can't go. There's no shocker. I have tried to navigate a flight the other day, and I said to the persons who invited me, it's if there's a connection going to the US, I'm not able to attend. I was going to a conference. I have pulled and withdraw my submission. I don't need an award for that. I don't even need a tap on my shoulder or any adulation. This is Andrew taking care of Andrew. This is Andrew understanding that I don't want the level of questioning I endured at the border last year going to a conference. I'm not interested in that. Let me sit myself down right here. Choices. What are you saying, Dr. Campbell? I shouldn't go. I didn't tell you that. I said it's about Andrew Campbell. You make your decision. I make mine. This is a part of my self-care and my self-love. I know what I can carry, and I don't wish to carry that burden at the border. I don't want to be a part of it. And so when we talk about anti-black racism, this is an excerpt from the Lewis report, the Stephen Lewis report. Look what it says. He said, first, what we're dealing with at the root, this is 1992 class. This is 1992 class. This is 1992. Yes, and a black anti-black report done by Stephen Lewis, 1992. He said what we're doing at the root fundamental is anti-black racism. While it is obviously true that every visible minority community experience the indignities and wounds of systematic discrimination throughout Southern Ontario, it is the black community which is the focus. It is blacks who are being shot. It is black youth that is unemployed in excessive numbers. It is black students who are being inappropriately streamed in schools. It is black kids who are disproportionately dropping out. It is housing communities with large concentration of black residents where the sense of vulnerability and disadvantage is most acute. It is black employees, professionals, and non-professionals on whom the doors of upward mobility, upward equity slam shut. Just as the soothing balm of multiculturalism cannot mask racism, so racism cannot mask its primary target. Let that sink in. And if you want a copy of it, Google it now and download it. It's on your Google. The Stephen Lewis Report, 1992. Understand what's going on. So let's answer 4 quick questions. Who is disrupting? Because I'm asking you to do that. So who is disrupting? What are you disrupting? What needs disrupting? Let's answer those questions. So the first one is who is disrupting? At the time when I created this, it was very important because there were so many people in those workshops and they need to know their role and responsibility in throwing around the word, I am a disruptor, I'm going to disrupt. And so I said to them, you have to be aware of what makes you different. And that this is not for the black folks. This is for all of us. This is for all of us. This is not a conversation for just the black people. It's a everybody conversation. We have to be aware of our own bias and prejudice. We have to be aware of our privilege and our power. We have to be conscious of our differences. And we have to be deliberate about inclusion. It don't just happen. You have to be deliberate. You know, so when I hear my students saying they're going to go to the school and they want to start all these stuff and these affinity spaces, I want them to realize how many pushback affinity spaces have been given in schools and how many more pushback it's getting now. I just heard this morning on the news that Sesame Street will no longer be because the funding has been withdrawn from Sesame Street. Because you know Sesame Street teach a lot about differences and inclusion. If you want to know anything about difference and inclusion as a child, you go on Sesame Street and you learn that we are all beautiful, You learn about the rainbows. You learn about the differences. You learn about the little boy who's a ballerina. You learn all about different families. And the powers have pulled that funding. Know who you are. Ground yourself in the knowledge of who you are. Don't think you're going to get it perfect. You're still going to struggle. There are times when I have to sit and really, really remind myself who I am. There are times I have to remind myself that, Andrew, that's me. You didn't get this job at Oise because somebody was your friend. I had no friends of Oise when I was hired. I have no friends. My friends are in Jamaica. My friends are here. They hang out with me. You see them on the beach with me doing. There's no Oise friend in the group. I didn't get my job because I was cute. Well, I'm stunningly cute, but that wasn't the reason. You know what I'm saying? It was because what I bring with me, years of quality teaching, years of loving people's children, years of being the teacher that cared for all my students. And I want to say something for the record, because every time I say certain statement, I will notice people will make, they all make their own thing. I have taught in schools for years where I had no black students in front of me. Just so you know that. And some of those schools, they could tell you, ask who is their favorite teacher, and they'll tell you that Mr. Campbell. Ask who is their bestest teacher. That's a word that I like. Bestest. Not a word, is a word. Mr. Campbell. So when I said care for people's children, all children, I want to be very clear on that, because that's what we do as educators. And that is why we struggle so much. And I struggle so much when I realize that our classrooms have teachers who are racist. Am I saying that for the recording? Absolutely. And who are anti-black. Stories, I could give you loads and loads of those stories. Sometimes I ask myself, how do you not care for a 6-year-old in your care? How do you not love an 11-year-old who says to you, Mr. Campbell, I'm going to be a pilot? How do you not affirm them that you can't wait for them to be a pilot so you could fly on their plane? How do you not affirm all your children? How do you not, when they come in the class and they wear a turban, you said to them, I love your turban, tell me about it. When my Greek students came from Greek holiday back to school, I want to hear all about the Greek food that they're eating because I love all the sweets. How do you not show care? But yet still every day we hear about anti-blackness in our schools being enacted by educators. I want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm saying. Because when we talk about anti-blackness in school and racism, somehow we want to pretend as if, the boogeyman came after school was closed and we all went home, and then somebody came in the building and just made the building racist and anti-racist and nobody knows what happened. I have seen racist librarians. I have seen anti-black teachers. I have experienced what it looks like to have teachers speak down to me. And I may be the most qualified teacher on the staff, unapologetically, the most qualified person on the staff, and speak to me as if I know nothing. Because that's what whiteness says. You don't value. So I can speak to you in a tone. Because, what is your value? So we have to understand the privilege and the bias. We also need to be clear. Reflect on those things. I talked about bias for a while because I want you to realize how it impacts you and impacts your work and impacts how you see others, but also impacts how you see yourself. There's so many people who have questioned their gifts. And it's not because you are not gifted or you're not amazing, but you don't get enough affirmation. You don't get enough affirmation. Did I tell you all the story? I was in a particular school years ago, and I was the dance choreographer for the school production. I am an award-winning dance choreographer. Yes, I have dance awards behind me as well. This is the famous St. John's College in the Bahamas dance group, national gold medalist. So when you see me act up sometime, and when you see me behaving like I'm supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, because I am supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you can run with it and say I'm arrogant. And the only reason why you say that, because you know for a fact that you don't see people like me standing beauty and strong in who they are. Came to Canada and running dance production. What happened is that the racialized student, little brown girl, in the only brown girl in the group, was picked as the lead dancer because she was a star. A star. The next morning, Colette, there was a meeting. I was called from my classroom. There was a meeting because the parents was concerned that the new teacher, the black guy, that's me, the new teacher, the black guy, Mr. Campbell, that's me. He had selected a girl who doesn't go to ballerina, who doesn't go to ballet. I'm going to leave that for you to unpack in your own time. A bunch of parents came to the school to say to the principal, we are concerned that the new teacher, the black guy, selected a girl to be the lead in the Christmas production, and she doesn't go to ballet. Young teachers, be prepared. How many of you, how would you deal with that? How would you deal with that? The sad news is many of you would have to change who is leading. For you to survive certain schools, you would have to change the lead dancer. You know what I did? I've always been this person. And I was an LTO, by the way. I have no, people like to say you say things when you have job security. I don't know what job security is, because I've seen people big and bright and blessed than me. I've lost their job. You see what happened in America with Harvard. You see what's going on. So don't you ever think for 1 minute, I think, as we say back home, my neighbor's string is cut to Oisy. And yes, I said that for the recording with a shout on the side, a shout on the side. Because I'm in an adamant, resolute stance about loving who I am, my self-care, my self-worth, and my self-deserving. And a lot of people are not happy that I love myself so much, that I deserve so much, I treat myself so well, because that's not their picture of blackness. Blackness need to be always under their feet. And so I said to the meeting, the parents, I said, well, I'm the black guy. My name is Mr. Campbell. I'm new here. And I said, I am in charge of the dance, and I get to decide who the lead dancers are or is, because that's my responsibility. The meeting was done in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. The production was amazing. Because you see something, Monique? I'm going to teach you a trick, Monique. When you speak that strong, you must can back it up. And I knew I'm an award-winning dance choreographer. I knew I'm an award-winning dance choreographer. I take my kids from the Bahamas to Atlanta, and we came back with gold. I take my kids for the national competitions. So I know what I was going to deliver, Jennifer. Show-stopping Christmas production. You thought it was in Vegas. Feathers and makeup and headpieces. Because when I go in. You have to be careful how you have a big ego, but you can't back it up. You have to be careful how you talk a big talk, young teachers, and you can't deliver. Oops, that was serious and that was deliberate. So ask yourself, what needs disrupting? Ask yourself those things. And then what I'm going to go with, and then you ask, what are you disrupting? And it's a list of things, a laundry list. Oh, but I was so blessed to listen to my second year class and their presentations the other day. As I said, they filled me up with their presentation. It was so powerful. So powerful. And so I realized they're growing. And I want to move on to some case studies. So I'm going to pause the recording for a minute. But before I pause the recording, we're going to look at 3 case studies. And they are video. That's why I have to pause, because they are YouTube videos. And they're like 2 minutes each. And then we're going to wrap up after that a little bit. As you're watching the videos, I want you to take a picture of this slide, everybody. And I want you to reflect. What did you see? What did you think happened? Would this have happened to you? Could this have happened to you or me? Why not? But I also want you to, when you watch the video, I want you to write down, what are you feeling? Very important. What are you feeling? Very important. And where in your body are you feeling it? Because it's a part of your self-care to understand when you see these things happen, you have to ground yourself to understand how to take care of yourself. So we're going to go to 3 case studies. That's going to be the first one. I call it the Starbucks incident. We're going to go into this one at the game. I want you to look at the picture I chose. There's a crowd of people. There's one black man and his family in the crowd. You can't see them, but there's one black man in the crowd. We are getting into the World Cup soon, football season. I'm not a sports person, so I don't really know much about sports, except I like to see everybody fabulous on the field. And I'm going to share with you another story of a star. I know sometimes your stardom and your moment is robbed and snatched because of racism and anti-black racism. So we're going to get into those. Let me stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to also pause the recording. So those case studies are there for you to reflect on. You can see copies of them on YouTube. They're all from YouTube. You can watch them again and see. I want you to understand what is happening around you and how to ground yourself for your own learning, for your own growth, but also to make sure as an educator, you take care of all our students. You teach them the right way. You teach them that racial slur is not the right way. You teach them what it is to disrupt racism, to disrupt the biases, to treat people with love, care, and respect. Those are the things we are talking about. Those are the things we need to be having conversations around. And so it's important for all of us to understand why we do what we do and how we are doing what we need to do when it comes to the work. And so I'm going to get back into the presentation. Let me get back into our presentation at this time. So as you're reflecting, as you're thinking, as you're doing the work, I'm sure you're having thoughts about what you saw, what we have been doing, how this work has been done. And think about those things. So let's move on quickly and wrap up. So what actions will you take? We're going to wrap up and then we're going to turn the video off and we're going to take a couple questions. And then the students will remain for another couple of minutes and our community will leave. So I really want to share this with you. And this is almost in conjunction with the original first slides when everybody was showing you different levels of how to respond. A lot of times when we talk about disrupting racism, disrupting, I think the first thing goes to many of our minds is this. We're going to break down, we're going to break down, we're going to break down, we're going to break down. I want you to realize that doing this work is not always about breaking down. It's not always about shouting. It's not always about marching. It's not always about blocking the street and lining the street and tying yourself to a building. It's not always about that. If you ask me, and I mean this, what has been my most impactful work in anti-black, in this work, in LGBTQ work, in everything, I will tell you it looks like this. The ways in which I have worked at building, loving, caring, sharing, affirming. If you get to know me personally, you realize I am an affirmer. I maybe have to put that on my resume one day. I love to speak life into people. I love to let somebody know they can and it's possible. I love to make sure people know they are beautiful. I have done this all the time. I have been to schools on the mic in auditorium speaking. And I see a young man comes in the room and he has the most beautiful afro in a school where he may be the 1%. And I've stopped the keynote to acknowledge the gorgeousness of the afro. I'm sure you'll never forget that. The whole auditorium applauded. I have been to places where I see a whole bunch of hijab wearing young ladies in a school where they are the anomaly, so to speak. And on my slide, when I turn to my slide, it's a amazing picture of Vogue Arabia, and on the cover are 3 black hijab wearing ladies. The joy that those students felt. So as a young teacher, as a new teacher, as an educator, as an old teacher like myself, how are we intentionally using our pedagogy and our power and our teaching practice, our classroom climate? How are we using that to disrupt? How are we using that to build? What is your space? What are the spaces like that you occupy? What are those spaces like that you occupy? Thank you for sharing. I see you sharing, Natalie. That's okay to share. Thank you so much. How are we occupying those spaces? What does building look like? An affirmation look like as an educator? How do you see your students, all your students? We can use the same kind of principle to students who have different kind of identities. Students who have mental health issues, students who have health issues, students who have disabilities and newer diversity, students from different spaces. How are we using our love and our care to build? How are we using that to build? The building is a big part for me. How are we building? So don't you leave here today thinking that this work in disrupting, it looks like this all the time. It looks like you're pulling down, you're marching, you're blocking the street, all of that. Some of you are poets. How are you writing poetry that resonate about the beauty of blackness? Some of you, you're dancers. How are you performing with black songs and voices and making sure little black girls see you and think, I want to be a dancer like my teacher, and I love the song? How are you, those of you who are choreographers and you are musicians, how are you leaning into the blackness? How are some of you are opera singers? How are you leaning into black opera and black voices? Some of you, you're going to write your stories. How are you writing that storybook about the little girl who wore the hijab, the golden hijab to the birthday party? Michaela, don't wait for anybody else to write the story. You have to write it. You have to write the story, Aaron, about this boy who is a basketball player, but then he also became the brain surgeon of the new hospital that was built over there. You see what I just did? Because we're not going to root everything in stereotypes. So yes, on the cover, he's a black man with a basketball in his hand and his surgery lab coat on. Wow. Are we going to tell a story of the black pianist and the black opera singers? How are we going to tell the stories? How are you shifting the narrative and disrupting the narrative? It's your job, Alistair. It's your job, young people. I am doing my part, but I can't do all of it. You have to do it. So I want you to be intentional in your pedagogy. In your pedagogy. I love this quote years ago from Janelle Brady, who used to be at Oisey here. Talk about the move to action. Talk about speaking out and demanding change. And how will you demand the change? How will you do it? How will you navigate it? How will you show up in your fullness? Are you one of those persons who are struggling with the beauty of your blackness? There's a poem I love. It's by Songbird. You could Google it later on. It's by Songbird. She said, "You so black." Oh, I love it. He said, you so black, when you smile, the stars come out at night. How are we making our classrooms safer for all students, kinder for all our students, more loving, a space where they can thrive, not survive, thrive? What can I do as a teacher to make that journey lighter? Pedagogy and practice. Your actions to promote inclusion within your organization, school, classroom, committee, wherever you work, dance group, football group, basketball group, whatever you do, art class, music class, your actions has to be intentional and it has to be deliberate. Has to be intentional and it has to be deliberate. I'm going to stop the recording at this time and we're going to move into a few Q&A and then